being in a troop is extremely important for chimpanzees. And I think there's a good argument, Yuval Harari's book, Sapiens and all that kind of stuff, like the importance of being in a group. What does so what I'm getting at is I think there's real dangers to isolating human beings. And we've seen a lot of very dangerous mass shooting and stuff like that. Kids, individuals who feel isolated. It's a concern I have with my students who are at home on Zoom and don't get the social interactions with school. Just being isolated affects kids in a lot of ways. I have a lot of kids with anxiety right now and depression and things like that. They're really struggling. And I connect to your work all the time, Professor, like all the time. And I wonder, how does isolation affect chimps?
Oh, isolation is about the worst. That's why isolation is also one of our worst punishments in prison. You know?
Yeah.
So isolation is very bad. And we humans, we tend to underestimate the role of physical contact, the role of smell, the role of being close to others. With the current, for the longest time we have said we can do all this teaching at the university or school. We can do all of that digitally. We can do it over the internet. And now we are learning during this crisis that actually it doesn't replace real presence of a real teacher and real interaction between teacher and student. And let me tell you a funny story. I once was on an airplane to Tokyo, and I was sitting next to an American businessman, and he was going there for just one meeting, flying all the way to Tokyo. And I said, "Why are you doing that? Is that not a meeting you can do over the internet?" He said, "No. I want to smell the people. I want to see them sweat when we make a proposal. I want to see how they react, even though I don't speak the language." And so he was a man very much in tune with body language and bodies. And I think we have underestimated how important that is to us. And all these kids that you say feel now isolated is because they don't see their friends. They don't see their teachers. They don't walk to school. All these things are important to us. Walking together, playing together, punching each other, and so on. All these things are important, but we're now deprived of that, and I think it's very worrisome. I think we humans are much more intensely social and bodily social than has been assumed.
Yeah, and it looks like that's the trend. I mean, part of what
let me tell you another story.
Please,
one time we had locked all our chimpanzees in a building in separate cages because we were redoing the outdoor enclosure. So they had a very large grassy enclosure with a big climbing frame, and we were rebuilding the frame, and it took a week. And so they were locked up for a week, and we made this beautiful construction. And then we released all the chimps, 25 of them. And our assumption was that they would run into that structure and be so excited that we had built this thing for them and so on. So we were very focused on our work, basically. But when we opened the doors, the first thing that happened for an hour or so is all these chimps standing around and slapping each other's backs and hooting and being so excited to see each other again. They were much more excited by each other than by that stupid climbing frame that we had built. And only after that did they start to explore that thing. And that taught me that for them, social relationships and physical connection was so much more important than how high you can climb, so to speak,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, and it seems like this is a trend that's because of the lockdowns and everything like that. I think there are a lot of businesses that go, you know what, we don't need these cubicles. We don't need this office space. Have people just work at home. And I'm always like, oh, well, hold on. I don't know. This is going really fast. Like the technology is amazing. It's cool. I can have this conversation with you, but it would probably be better over coffee. And the more that we separate and the more that we put up these computer screens, these screens, we're getting further and further away from something that, as you say, is really, really important.
But we've also noticed that in social relationships, if you want to apologize to your wife about something you did, you can do that with a text message, but you know that that's going to be misinterpreted. That's not going to
Not my
work.
wife.
Yeah. You have to do that in person. They have to see you and see if you're sincere. That's an important part of it, you know. And so I think we have overestimated what we can do with digital media.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm with you on that, and it's a concern. I'm glad we're talking about that.